I am so grateful for this privilege to share what's in my heart and to take these few moments and pour what I believe God has given to me to share with you so that you are equipped to do everything that God put you on the planet to do. I would like to let you all know that I am a registered nurse, have been for over 20 years now. And I remember as a nurse having this conversation with people, with my fellow nursing colleagues. We would argue about who was the most important. The majority of my time in the hospital, I worked with cardiac patients, with heart patients. And we would talk with the neurological nurses. And the neurological nurses thought they were the most important. And the cardiac nurses, we felt like we were the most important. And the neurological nurses, they would say, well, you can't do anything without the brain. We're in charge of everything. And the cardiac nurses would say, well, we have the heart. So if we stop working, the whole show stops. I came to the conclusion that what we really need to be aware of is that we need both, not one or the other, but we need the connection of the two. So what I would like to speak with you about today really is connection. One of the things I love so much about being in this field is that the body is always with me. So in every test that I was having, I had a template and a way to be able to have the answers. The answers were always with me. What a lesson for life. You have your body, you always have the answers with you. So making the right connections is the important way to actually access those right answers. So I'm curious, can you see the picture of the wave? Is anyone seeing the picture of the wave? Think in terms of connection. When you see this wave, you will see something very interesting about it. Waves are made of water, right? Now, as a nurse, I thought, what could I pour into you that would be of help to you? Well, it's to understand certain things about your body. Perhaps you know this. Your body is 80% water. So we're going to start with water. The wave actually shows movement, and water moves. Interesting things about water, water is connected. All of those drops of water in that wave are connected. And I want you to see this picture. When you see this picture of the wave, you'll understand how certain movements are coming about. It's important for us to pay attention, paying attention to the details. When you pay attention to the details, you gain important information that you may need in order to navigate life. So how much water does our body need? Okay. So for every 25 kilograms, you need 1 liter of water. And preferably to get that in before noon. Now, for those of you who are in the system here in the United States, that would be for every 50 pounds, you need 1 quart. Not to exceed 5 liters or 5 quarts. Too much of a good thing is no longer a good thing. So giving your body what it needs, that's the basic of what you need. You would basically need at least 1 liter of water for every 25 kilos. Then you're giving each one of your cells exactly what it needs in order to be able to move freely. Now, if you have that on board, you support your body's ability to be able to move nutrients back and forth, get rid of toxins. You support your body's ability to release things that it no longer needs. Now that wave, that picture of that wave, when you see that, this wave actually has, it's kind of flat on either side, but it's got this point at which it's kind of pointing upward. And when that wave points upward, it's giving us some information. And the information that it's giving us is that there's something that's causing it to not be flat all the way across. And if you think about it, if a wave is not flat all the way across, it's because there's something underneath there that it's coming up against. That wave shows that there's something underneath the water that's having an impact, and it's showing up as a point and as a pinnacle of the water. When you have that kind of a movement underneath, there's something underneath, there's an illustration, there's a lesson there. There's a connection we can make. There's the wave. You see that connection? There's something underneath that water that's causing it to appear differently on top. So when you're interacting with people, think about that. When you see a reaction, a response, a reaction rather than a response, think about what's underneath that. Even for yourself, when you see yourself overreacting, stop for a moment and ask yourself, what's underneath that? Be curious about that. What's causing that? Take a moment to think about yourself, to do the work on yourself. It was beautiful to hear the testimonies of the young people, because graduates, that's one of the things that you're doing. You're actually working on yourself. And that's the key to actually moving through life successfully, being yourself. So this peak of water, this something underneath, be curious about that, find out about that. And when you do find out about that, be kind to yourself. As you would be kind to other people, be kind to yourself. And ask yourself, be curious about what you're learning about yourself. That peak of water shows there's something underneath. There's a connection that's happening. There's another connection I want to draw for you. Have you ever heard, anyone ever heard of something called the insula? The insula is a part of the brain, right? And when you think about your brain, okay, it does all this thinking, right? And it takes input information in, like our eyes receive information in, our ears receive information in, auditory or visual. Our nose, we can actually smell things. We can actually, and different smells can bring back different memories. Even our mouths, gustatory, our taste buds actually have this way of bringing memories. Babies, when they're young, they're constantly putting things in their mouths because that's the way their world is oriented. So information goes to our brains in different ways. But now there's one other layer. Now this when I was coming up in nursing school, this was not a part of the conversation that we were having in terms of our studies. We're learning more every day. So graduates, you're on the right track because you're learning every day. And one of the things they've learned is that there's a part of the brain called the insula. It's actually inside, and it's really interesting because it doesn't use words at all. No words. It's got neurons that connect from the insula inside of the brain that go directly to the heart. So that's the only way it's connected, is just by those nerves. So there's a part of your brain that doesn't use words. Now we're in a very verbal society, but there are societies that only communicate with this level. It has two expressions. It's either open and willing and ready to receive with joy, or it's curled up and closed in a fetal position. It's a feeling, it's an emotion that shows up physically in your body. So graduates, one of the gifts I would like to share with you is to pay attention to that, to reach in and really realize how you're feeling inside. Are you feeling open in this relationship you're interacting with, in this communication that you're having, with this event, this venture that you're a part of, this environment that you're in? Are you feeling open and free? Or are you feeling constrained? Because if you know how you're reacting or how you're feeling, how your body is feeling in there, you've got a touch point to be able to make some further insights about what you should do and how to navigate. You've got an inner clue. We're trained to not pay attention to that. And I want to encourage you. And that whole almost like a slavery mindset pushes us to not pay attention to our bodies, to keep pushing and pushing and pushing. That is not healthy. We're supposed to present our bodies a living sacrifice, not a dead one, right? So let's present our bodies, let's take care of the body that our Creator has given to us. And let's express our appreciation to our Creator by paying attention to our bodies and taking care of our bodies. So now, remember I talked to you about the insula. The insula doesn't use words, but there's a part of our body that does use words. Our brain actually uses words. You know, we can go 40 days without food. We can go like 3 days without water. Some people could actually manage 3 minutes without air. But we can't even go 3 seconds without thinking. So this concept of our thinking is part of the root in our lives. And I'm talking about the root so we can get the kind of fruit we want in our lives. So we're going to talk about this root called thinking. Our thoughts are connected with words, and our words have an impact. So next slide, please. There was a doctor by the name of Dr. Emoto, Japanese man, and he did an experiment. He did a water experiment. It's a picture of a snowflake, a frozen snowflake. What Dr. Emoto did was he wanted to see if our words would have an impact. What kind of impact does it show up in? How does it show up? So he spoke certain words to certain glasses of water. And he had special photography take place. And he wanted to see what would happen with those words, the impact it would have on the water. And he took pictures. Now you can Google this. Dr. Emoto's water experiment. And when he spoke the word joy, a beautiful, organized picture of water came forth. It looked like a beautiful snowflake, 6 sides and sparkly. So this joy, this word, construct. Your words bring certain constructs into your life. When he put the word Hitler out there, very interesting, it made a really messy picture. Now, I had a friend I still have a friend, who shared a story with me about how words impacted her life. She specifically asked, she was looking for a house. She and her husband they had sold their home, so they were looking for another home. They couldn't find one to buy, so they decided they would rent. And so as she shared with me, she was praying and she was asking God, she said, okay, God, I am looking for a house. You know, we are out here looking for a house. And I know I do not want to live next to anything like a cell phone tower, and I don't want to be near any power lines. So if you just take care of that, that would be great. No cell phone tower, no power lines. And she was working and she was moving and doing everything really quickly, and they were kind of running out of some time. They had a couple of places they had picked out, so they made the decision. they settled in the one place. They ended up moving in the evening, and so they got in. The next morning, she woke up, and she went to the living room, and she opened the window. She opened the blinds, and what she saw was a 5G cell phone tower and power lines right outside the window, as if they were her new neighbors. And she's like, God, what did you do? Why? I just told you that stuff. I didn't want this and I didn't want that. So what happened? And God brought the thought to her mind. It's all you talked about. All of her words, all of her energy was given to what she didn't want. So that's what she got. Job said, the things I feared have come upon me. Job took his fears to God. Now, it is important for us to take our fears to God, but don't let that be your own thought process. There's the cell phone tower, the power lines as a new neighbor to her. She called me like, what do I do? And I shared with her a way that she could actually protect her home from the electromagnetic frequencies that would be harmful to her body. She was very grateful for that. And she was very grateful for the lesson. She said, I learned that what is to be is up to me. And I added to that, well, what is for you is yours to do. What you give your words to, what you give your strength to, what you give your thought process to, that's the fruit that you're going to get. So let's say I go to a restaurant and I place an order. And I say, I would like to have a salad with ranch dressing, please. And then after a few moments, I call the waiter back and I say, excuse me, I want to change that to just some vegetables, roasted vegetables, please. And then the waiter goes off again and then comes back and says, well, actually, I'd like to change that to maybe just some green beans and Brussels sprouts. That's really all. So now what's happening is I'm putting all these different orders in, and there's a confusion around the message. Think about it. When God created the world, God used words. So our words matter. What orders I'm putting out there. If you think of your words as orders, that's really what they are. You're giving a directive to your own being, and you're also telling God what you're desiring. And the scripture says, if you delight yourself in the Lord, God will give you the desires of your heart. Do you know the desires of your heart? That's worth exploring. And that's what you all have been engaging in. I get so excited thinking about you, because I know that you are being equipped with everything that you need to do everything that you've been put on the planet to do. And there's no one else on the planet like you. So if you be yourself, that is the most powerful thing you can do. No one else will do it like you. You are unique. Even if you're a twin, you're unique. Now, let's talk a minute about we've talked about our words, right? Our thoughts that turn into our words. And when we focus our thoughts in a certain way, we get a certain fruit in our lives. I want to share a story with you. If you'll put the picture up of the tomato, please. So I was raised in a very formal religion. And I had a practice, but I didn't have a relationship with God. I didn't understand how to really grow in my relationship with God. My mom taught me how to pray. I got down on my knees and I would pray. And I loved talking to God because God never told me to be quiet like the adults did. I would sing to God. I was telling God what I learned in school that day. I just loved talking to God. one day, I was at college, and when I was at college, I was having this thought about food. I had some tests that were, and then this is why I was thinking about food, because I had a test. It was a final exam time, and I normally would have a good breakfast every day, but that morning I decided to have a Coke soda. So I had a can of Coke for breakfast. And that choice made me so ill that I missed 2 of my exams. I was having hot and cold flashes. I was having shortness of breath. I was having numbness and tingling in my hands and in my feet. I didn't know what was going on. I went to the doctor, and the doctor said, well, it sounds like you're having a hypoglycemic reaction, like your blood sugar dropped. He said, now that test is long and very difficult, so rather than put you through all that, just cut sugar out of your diet and see how you feel. So the next week I went back to see the doctor. I cut the sugar out of my diet, and I said, kind of interesting. When I eat peanut butter, I feel like I can do cartwheels. And the doctor laughed and said, he said, you're going to be just fine. So I just continued my journey forward by not having sugar. Then they got a new baker. The new baker, well, it used to be you had to get in line to get your desserts. The new baker liked to display all of the things that they would bake. So this baker had a table that you had to walk by. So now, mind you, I wasn't a Christian at the time. I just decided, you know what, that's way too much. Like, it's one thing, I don't have to get in line, that was easy. But now, having this table of all these sweets, homemade cookies like this big, and Rice Krispie treats, and cakes, and donuts, and all homemade, like you have to walk by this. And it used to be that my favorite ice cream, cookies and cream ice cream, was only available like maybe once or twice in the month. Now they would have it for lunch or for dinner every single day. This was way too much. I'm like, Lord, I cannot get in line, but how in the world am I supposed to walk by this table? God brought this question to mind. Yvonne, would you like to be used by me for my service, for the increase of my kingdom? I said, yes, I would love to be used by you. Okay, recognize every time that you take the sugar into your body, energy that could be used to build my kingdom now has to be used to put your body back in order. So I will not be the one offering the sugar to you. And I thought, well, if God's not offering it, well, that's evil. So I saw like crossbones and skulls whenever I saw that table. So God just encouraged me to choose life. So I saw that choosing sugar was like choosing death to my body. So I started choosing life. Every time I walked by that table, I was choosing life. I was choosing life, and it got easier and easier and easier. Until one day, I remember around that time, I was seeking God. I was trying to figure out, how do you know if something is right or not? I thought logic was the answer. And in my logic class, I learned that logic didn't have mercy. Something could be logical, but it didn't show compassion. I'm like, Lord, am I going to have to read every book in the library before I know what's true? I was tired. I didn't know what to do. Shortly after that, a friend came to me and shared the gospel with me. And I started reading the Bible. And I got to Deuteronomy chapter 30, verses 15 and 19 and 20. And God says, see, I've set before you this day life and good, and death and evil. So let me ask you, if I gave you the choice, if you had the choice of having good or evil happen to you, which would you prefer? Which would you prefer? Right, I see you laughing. You're right. You would want the good, right? Well, if you had the choice of being blessed or being cursed, which would you prefer? Right, being blessed. You prefer being blessed. If you had the choice between life or death, which would you choose? Now, what's interesting about this one, God doesn't give us a choice about that. He gives us a choice about choosing good or evil. I could choose that sugar or not. I could choose to be blessed or be cursed. I could choose not to take that in and have a hardship in my body. I could choose being blessed or being cursed. Right? So verse 19 in Deuteronomy 30 says, see, I've set heaven and earth against you to this day. I've set before you life and death, blessing and cursing, good and evil. Therefore choose life. That's a command, not an option. Therefore choose life, that it may be well with you, that you may love the Lord your God, that you may cleave unto him. For he is your strength and the length of your days, that he may bless you in the land that he's given to your fathers. So this concept of being connected with God and choosing life is a command. And who is life? Jesus said this, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father but by me. That exclusive statement is something people do not like. They wrestle with. They're like, I don't know. I don't know if I can handle that. Well, when Jesus made that statement, that exclusive statement about the access to God through life, then we have to make a decision about what we think about that. Either what he was saying was true and he's good, and he is, or what he was saying was not true, and we should discard everything. Only someone who is that way and lives that way and delivers the goods, shows up that way, is really the one you can believe in and put your faith in and trust in. So choose life. Choose life. Choosing life is not an option. God commands us to choose life. And when we choose that life, there's transformation that comes. There's different fruit that comes. Now look at this picture of this is all about the food choices I'm making, right? I'm choosing what kind of foods to put into my body. Now you'll have choices as well. You need to make choices about what kind of foods you put into your body, right? You've heard the statement, you are what you eat, right? So make the choice every day to deliver into your body what's necessary so that you can do all that God has put you on the planet to do. So in this picture, you can see that it looks like a tree, and the tree has these seeds out on the edges, right? One plant comes from one seed. That one seed pushes through the ground, grows up, gets all the nutrients from its environment, and pushes up and is able to really branch out and deliver fruit. So what's happening at the root is key. Much like the wave, what's happening at the root is going to tell you what kind of fruit you're going to get in your life. So I would encourage you to think on those levels. Make choices on those levels. Make decisions related to the fruit you want in your life. If you would now go to the family tree. This picture of a family tree has a story behind it. I have a very dear friend who, after she came to faith in Christ, we met. We've been friends for over 3 decades now. And she sent this picture to me and shared this story. This tree is on her family property. Her great-great-grandfather had just come out of slavery. His parents were slaves. And when his parents died, they didn't have land to be able to bury them properly. So he decided that he wanted He wanted to make sure that no one in his family ever experienced that again. So he set his life on course to purchase land. And he purchased this land. Now, today we are here talking about navigating new horizons. Horizons are something far into the distance. And this great-great-grandfather was seeing into the distance and put something in place so that his family would not have to experience those challenges that he saw. And so now the family gathers on this land. They take a picture in front of this tree every year. They have a family reunion. Did that gentleman know that when he was thinking about those generations ahead, that this was going to be the result, that the family would stay close-knit, that they would have a place to be able to come together, and that they would use that space? This tree was much smaller back then. Look at it now. It's continuing to grow. Just like you. So think ahead. Think about the impact of the decisions that you make, the choices that you make. Think about, how is this going to impact my environment? How is this going to impact nature? How is this going to impact the people around me? How is this going to impact 7 generations from now? When you're making key decisions like that, decisions even about the foods you choose to put into your body is having an impact for generations to come, because it prepares, your body is an instrument being prepared to have an impact on generations to come. So think in terms of the roots, the fruits, and the long-term outcome. Get that horizon in view, and it will help you navigate the decisions that you're making. If you would please go to the last slide. Not sure if you all had an opportunity to be exposed to my bio or not, but I've traveled to over 25 different foreign countries. And one of those countries was Papua New Guinea. Papua New Guinea has, there are more languages on that one island than there are languages all around the world. And that's because every family has their own language. It's called a house line. And they use a pidgin English in order to be able to communicate with each other, to stay connected with each other. And in Papua New Guinea, when I was there, I was in the highlands of Papua New Guinea. The altitude was so high that on the mountaintops, we actually would look down on the clouds. I had to prepare my body physically to be able to get to those levels. And I want to encourage you to do the same. Take the vessel that your being is in, your body is in. Take this vessel and treat it well. Every emotion you have, every thought you have is happening within a body. Your spiritual being, all within this body. Take care of this body. Okay? So on these mountaintops of Papua New Guinea, they would have a Saturday morning prayer meeting. And it is my favorite picture. This Saturday morning prayer meeting is my absolute favorite picture. Because I recall getting on the bike and riding in exercise in order to prepare for being there. Movement, our bodies are designed to move. So use the body that God has given you. Engage in movement. Engage in exercise on a regular basis. Even if it's walking 30 minutes a day, that will shift and deliver wellness to your body. Being still, being quiet is healthful for your body. And movement is necessary and shows that there's life. You know, it's interesting, that tree cannot move. I'm just going to make this connection. The tree cannot move. but it may need for its seeds to go to different places. And so the birds come, and the birds will eat the fruit from the tree and then spit out the seeds, and then the seeds go to where they need to go. So the connections that we have in our lives are really important. If we can't move, then God will bring someone who can. If we can't get to where we need to go, then God will bring someone who can. So God took me to Papua New Guinea, put me on the mountaintop, and granted me the opportunity to impact the people there and have the people impact me. So this picture of the people on the mountaintop, I'm on one side of the mountain, and there's a little dip and valley between us, and then there's a mountaintop on the other side, and I took a picture of the people going to the Saturday morning prayer meeting. You can see the clouds down below. You can see a few clouds even above us, but you can see the clouds down below. And that particular picture focuses on, this picture right here focuses on the fact that we need to commune with our Creator. You know, the ladies there in Papua New Guinea, we were having what's called a mumu. What they would do is they would they would dig a hole in the ground. They would start a fire, create coals with the wood, and they put that down in the ground, and then they lay banana leaves on top, and then they would lay the meat on top of that, and then they put more banana leaves down, more coals, and they'd lay the fruit, the vegetables on top of that. They'd layer it, and then they would bury the whole thing. And then we'd sit for a couple of hours and have a conversation. And they picked a spokeswoman to ask a question. Now, in their culture, when they gather for their spiritual meetings, the men are on one side, the women are on another. So I was with the ladies. And one of the ladies said, she stood up and she said, "We have a question for you. When we go to school, we learn English." And she said, "You already know English, so why do you still go to school?" And the ladies just burst out laughing. Ah, they thought that was so funny. They thought it was really funny. And I said to them, what God gave to me in that moment, I said, I go to learn how to write down what I'm thinking, so that when I'm gone, my words can still impact generations I will never see. It got so quiet on that mountaintop. So having your words, having an impact, speaking your words makes a difference. And when you write them down, it can be carried even further. It can go, your voice is carried on to generations to come. Now, attending to your spiritual being is crucial to all of life, because I believe we are first spiritual beings. And that spiritual being resides in a physical being. And that spiritual being can connect and direct what happens for us in our intellect and in our emotions. You know how babies, when they're little, they just express themselves. They just use all of what they have in order to communicate whatever is going on for them. And as we grow and as we mature, we become more skilled at that process of communicating and expressing. What I would like to share with you in closing is a way to shift your body when you're in a situation that is stressful. Because truth is, life has stress. It's one of the reasons why we have a prayer meeting, because we want to take those burdens and those praises and prayer requests to the God who created us. So when you have stress, you can reset your nervous system with a breath. Breath and breathing is important. God breathed into us the breath of life. So focusing on your breath is actually focusing on God. So when you're feeling anxious, when you're feeling, look, trials are going to come. Everybody's got their own. We don't know what your trials are going to be, but we can know how to navigate that in a way that's healthy for our bodies. You can do this in the moment. You can literally go from fight or flight, flight or freeze, to rest, relax, rejuvenate. And the way you do that is simple. You breathe in through your nose for 3 counts. And then you breathe out through your nose for 3 counts. I'm sorry, for 6 counts. You breathe in through your nose for 3 counts, and you breathe out for 6 counts. Okay, let's try that together. Okay. Breathe in, 1, 2, 3. Nice and slow going out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, one more time. Breathe in through your nose. 1, 2, 3, and out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now you can repeat that up to 6 times. And I can actually see your shoulders kind of dropping a little bit. The tension actually releases. You can reset your nervous system that way. So, you know, I've been a cardiac nurse, I've done ER, and they taught us, you never run to an emergency, always walk. And the reason being, it's because all the blood moves away from your head when you're in fight or flight. It's going to your body so you can move, so you can run, but you won't be able to think clearly. So you walk to the emergency. You walk to that thing that's stressful to you so that you can have your mind and you'll be able to navigate and think it through. So I'd like to close with a poem that I wrote related to breathing. It's my prayer for you. My prayer for you today is laser focused on your breath. God breathed life into our physical beings, appointed when we would be born and where we would be born, so that we might seek him. Abba, with every breath you so graciously bestow, we engage in a cyclical exercise. We inhale and we exhale. We breathe in and gather the resources needed from the abundance of your loving provision around us. We breathe out and release what would be toxic to our bodies if we refused to let go. We inhale and we exhale. We breathe in and pull power into our bodies for another moment. We breathe out and push poison out of our beings for another moment. We inhale and we exhale. We breathe in treasures to enable creativity and sweet communion with you. We breathe out traumas that disable clear, truthful communication with ourselves, one another, and you. You have granted the breath of life unto us so that we may complete the good work you have prepared for us. Empower every breath we take with wisdom from above, and use us in the place of your appointment for your glory. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen. Thank you.